Welcome to Journey Home to Self. This is a place for us to explore the milestones, the roadblocks, the pit stops, and the breathtaking sights on the most important journey of our lives, the journey of coming back home to you. My hope is that through the stories, insights, knowledge, and wisdom we share here, you get inspired and activated to widely fall in love with choosing yourself every single moment. I'm your host, Deepshikha Sairam, and I am truly so excited and honored that you are here. Let's dive in and journey home to self together. Welcome back to part 2 of our very special 2-part episode on Journey Home to Self framework. I hope you enjoyed part 1, and if you haven't heard that one yet, I urge you to pause this one and go to that first. This episode builds on the last one, so you'll find that it makes much more sense if you listen in order. I also want to remind you that we created a handy guide for you to help you understand and even begin to apply the framework in your life. The guide not only gives you a summary of the 2 episodes in explaining the framework, but it also has some additional tools to help you get a good, solid start. All right, before I begin, let's do a quick recap of the framework as we understood it so far. The framework, which we see in an infinity symbol, has 4 stages or 4 initiations. They aren't linear, you can't skip them, you have to go through them. In part 1, we talked about the first 2 stages, the water and the air initiation. In the water initiation, you let go of your emotional body, aka all the feelings and the emotions of the past that have kept you frozen there. The gift in this stage is transmutation of the heavy emotions and turning them to higher frequencies of courage and acceptance and love and joy and peace. And the gift also is quietening your inner critic. The second stage is the air initiation, where the biggest test is your self-doubt and the external voices of authority around you. The gift here is your own intuition, your inner voice, your wisdom, and your connection with Source, and trusting that versus believing in your self-doubt and those external voices. After navigating these 2 stages, again, they may not happen in that order or one by one, you will find yourself at the point of pivot. You have a choice to pivot here and ascend to another level on the journey home to self, or stay stuck in doubt and fear. I have full faith that after listening to episode 1, you will pivot. You cannot not pivot. Not after you would have tasted the lightness you feel after you let go of that past emotional trauma. After that quiet confidence you get in your own voice, in your own intuition. And in often cases, and this is what happened to me, every time my ego, my brain took me back to my old self, it was like my body thrashed. It rejected the old paradigm and brought me right to the point of pivot. Now, you do have free will, so you won't be taken beyond this if you don't want to. But, and I believe some of us have a soul mission to not only be on this journey for ourselves, but also to guide others. And for that, there is a power greater than us that pulls us to the point of pivot into the next initiation. It's like the goddess says, honey, you can come willingly, or you can come screaming and thrashing your way about. Of course, I did the latter. At least the first few rounds on the journey till I knew better. However, when you go there, when you pivot, you will find yourself now in the next initiation, the fire initiation. I call it the purge. This is the unbecoming. This is the burning of anything that is not required in your new self. The real test here is the burning away or the death of your identity or your character as you know it. It is the death of the smaller self, the one that says, I have, therefore I am. I have the money, therefore I'm worthy. I have the designer clothes, therefore I'm beautiful. I have the followers on Instagram, therefore I'm good enough. Although it might not become apparent to you the first couple of times you are on this journey, but slowly as you enter this initiation again and again, there is a real opportunity to even let go of your ego. To go from I have, therefore I am, to I am that I am. To really understand and embrace your I am presence. The archetype of this stage is Kali Ma. It's goddess Hecate. It's very much the energy of burning and destruction of what's not gonna serve you where you're going. And you will feel that fire, that fiery, destructive energy inside of you. You will begin to unearth your wildness. You will connect to your instinctual, that wild, that animal nature of yours. This is where a lot of women start to set boundaries, walk away from relationships and situations that don't serve them anymore. They burn down bridges, careers without giving it a second thought. They take a whole year off to eat, pray, and love in Italy and India. They go on silent retreats. They reconnect with their mothers and nature. They feel the energy of their ancestors pulsing in their veins. They stop people pleasing. They find their voice. They start speaking their truth. Be very gentle with your throat chakra here. It may close up. You will find that when you are speaking your truth, your voice suddenly becomes hoarse or your throat starts to close up if you don't give it that loving energy. Call upon Kali Ma. You know, her energy is very fiery. Of course, she's very fierce. And most people think of her as this goddess of destruction. Whenever I've talked about Kali Ma with some of my friends and priestesses, they've always kind of talked about Kali Ma with a level of fear inside of them. Like, Kali Ma, oh my goodness, she is fierce, she is scary, she is going to destruct things in your life. My experience with her has been very different. She has come to me many times to very gently wipe my tears in the midst of a purging and carried me through it. I have experienced her fierce side where she was working through me in purging the things that I didn't need, that were not serving me, but also I have experienced her loving side. Call upon Goddess Hecate. Hecate assisted Goddess Demeter in search for Persephone, guiding her through the night with flaming torches. I actually wasn't very familiar with Hecate's energy until very, very recently when I was listening to a book on Audible by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote the book Women Who Run with Wolves. But this book is called Playing with Your Creative Fire. And she talks about the story of how Persephone was taken into the underworld. And the story is beautiful and it talks about creativity. But what caught my attention was the energy of Hecate and how she guides people through the night, through the underworld with the flaming torch, with a lamp. And If you go back to a few episodes during a conversation with Alison Scammell, I had this image of myself doing the same. And I very much believe that this is the stage where we need that energy. We need the energy of Hecate, where we are purging, but we also become our guide, or we rely on a guide who can guide us with a torchlight, with a lamp, with a flame out of the underworld of our own psyche, our shadows, those unconscious limiting beliefs that keep us trapped, to the light. The meaning of the stage is simple. What doesn't belong in your wholeness, in your true divinity, your inner worth, needs to die. And it might be a shocking concept for some of you to believe that your ego is that thing, but that is the truth. Now, again, this is a constant process. I work very hard to not let my ego come in, and sometimes I fail very miserably. And that's okay. Ego has a role to play, but not in defining your worth, not in telling you who you are based on what you have. The stage is about ending old patterns and igniting a new you. If you trust and surrender, you will be guided into the deep recess of your soul, layer by layer, until you arrive at your inner wholeness, your integrity, your authenticity. You must, I plead, you must surrender here, my friends. You must use the gifts of the previous stages, the alchemy, the perspective shift of being in the womb and not in the tomb, the art of allowing, sitting in your muck, embracing the muck, the trust in your own inner voice, in your intuition, in your visions, in your wisdom, and the courage to pivot and choose yourself. All those gifts will help you become that fertile ground that emerges after the field has been burnt for the new seeds to be planted. I also want to talk about some of the things that can become a barrier here, because I want you to be mindful of those. Judgment of self and others, comparison with others, jealousy, resentment, anger. None of these are good or bad, but these are byproducts that are coming from the embers of the fire you have lit. Don't worry. These are just remnants of your character, your old self, your ego. They're trying very hard to hold on to anything, whatever, that gives them the slightest attention. But don't you do that. I cannot stress the importance of having someone who can mirror the process you're going through, who can hold the space for you to mourn your old self, because yes, it's dying and it is important that you mourn it. And who can remind you on why you're doing this work every day. You've been gestating long enough. This stage is where you birth yourself. This is the stage where you go through the labor pains. You go through the contraction. And it is painful. But you need a midwife, a doula, a doctor to hold your hand, to wipe the sweat off your face, to hold your legs as you, and you alone can do that, birth the new you. A community you can rely on, a mentor, a friend who has been through the purging. All these are going to be the support system that you need to unbecome, to purge, for rebirth, which is the next stage. Do not let those embers get to you and take hold in your psyche. Just be a witness to it. Surrender. Let it go. Don't judge it. Don't condemn it. Don't resist it. Just surrender to the feeling and it will pass. I promise you it will. The purging can seem like a tough initiation, but it is going to make you stronger. Out of all the four stages, and even though the last one is a good one, It's the earth initiation, which we're going to get to in a minute. It's the coming back home, it's the rebirth. It's where you feel the wholeness. This stage, the purging, the fire initiation, is the one that I remember the most. Because this is where I developed the most strength. Just like years ago, I was in a panel and someone asked me, and it was a business panel, and someone asked me, what's the most courageous thing that you've ever done in your life? And I said, giving birth to my child. Because I remember when I got up after I birthed him, after an hour or so, my husband looked at me and he was like, oh my goodness, it looks like you can go and play soccer. You have so much energy. The adrenaline alone from doing what I never thought I could do was so powerful. I truly believe that if I can do that, I can do anything. And that is what the fire initiation will give you. It'll give you the strength. It'll give you the knowing that if you can purge all the things that were keeping you back, the people pleasing, the not believing in yourself, the unworthiness, the not good enoughness, everything that was holding you back, if you can let that go and birth a new self, someone who believes in herself as the goddess that she is, you can do anything. There's a beautiful practice that was given to me when I was in the stage. It's called the Pillar of Light, and it takes place in the pyramid, and I do it with my clients and I share it in my programs and workshops. And if at any point of time you feel compelled, or you feel like you want to do this practice with me, or you attend one of the workshops or work with me, you will see that the practice takes place in a pillar of light, where there is light around you and you are the one who does the alchemy. And I was given the practice not from a mentor, but it came to me in a meditation. And every time I've done this practice, it's like every time you do it, you become more stronger and stronger. And yes, you can do it with a mentor. And that's what I do with some of my clients. But it is really an alchemy that you're doing it to yourself. It's really, you're lighting the fire. You are the one who's birthing yourself. So you become the mother, you become the newborn, you become the midwife, you become the doula, you become everything. And it's very, very powerful. You purge the small self. It dies. Anything that's not needed in your journey home to self stays here, it dies here, it turns into ashes, it's taken into the Mother Earth, and it's transmuted into beautiful, positive, high vibrational energy. And you are ready to enter the Earth initiation. I want to take a quick break to remind you to get your complimentary guide to Journey Home to Self framework. Go to bit.ly/Journey Home to Self. That's bit.ly/Journey Home to Self. Or grab the link from the show notes. Why not get it now? Go on, I'll wait. Done? Awesome. Let's get back to the episode now. The Earth initiation, as the name suggests, is coming back home. It's metamorphosis. It's the rebirth. It's the feeling of wholeness, of completeness. If you look at the PDF guide that we have along with the episode, you'll see a meme along with this stage, this initiation. It's a picture of a butterfly in a car, and it appears that the butterfly has been stopped by a cop. And the cop is looking at the butterfly's driving license, and there is a picture of a caterpillar on the driving license. And the butterfly says, "That's an old picture." It's a funny meme, but it truly, truly tells us what this stage is. In this stage, you feel enough. You feel whole. You know that you are worthy. You have that quiet confidence in you. This is not loud self confidence that you go on social media and brag about yourself. And if you like to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about that quiet self confidence that you know that you're enough, that you know that you're worthy. You don't have to go out and prove yourself. You don't have to go out and please people. And the most important thing about this stage that I have experienced is that the feeling of enoughness, of wholeness, of completeness, of knowing that I am worthy and I am unlimited and I am complete, it's not coming from outside of you. It's not coming from a good day. It's not coming from a glass of wine. It's not coming from a shopping spree or a donut or a cake. It's not coming from a wonderful conversation with a friend. It's not coming from anything outside of you, but it's coming from within you. That feeling actually cannot really be described in words. And it happened to me one morning where everything was going wrong. We were late for school, the breakfast spilled, the car had a problem in starting. Everything was going wrong in my life that day. Everything that would have set me off on a bad day, set me off and put me in a bad mood was happening. I had a fight with my husband and I had this awful email that I had to reply to. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. But when I dropped the kids off, came back home and I was with myself for a few minutes and I checked in, I realized that I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. Of course, there was this irritation. You will feel that you're a human. You will have those human experiences. There was this irritation. But underneath that, there wasn't this feeling of, oh my goodness, I must have done something wrong. Or, oh my goodness, why does that happen to me only? There was no guilt. There was no shame. There was no feeling of unworthiness. Nothing. And that was very, very new for me. This is also a stage when you reach those feelings, and you will zip in and out of the entire framework many times, and you'll have days when you feel whole and you'll have days when you feel like shit. That's the whole point of the journey. That's why it's an infinity sign. You come in and out of that, but the more you do it, the more time you spend in the wholeness, the earth initiation. And when you have the tools with you, even if you find yourself in fire or you find yourself in water or earth, you will start to zip in and out of it faster because you now have the tools and you understand it. Like I was saying, people will start to ask you, what's up with you? What's going on? What's new in your life? Did you get some work done? Because you are beaming. You are beaming, you're glowing without having anything done to you. You are just glowing with happiness. There's this inner glow. You look different. There's something about you. There's this energy about you. Have you ever met these people who just have this energy? They have this charisma. They're magnetic. When you're in their company, you just feel attracted to them. You can't even put your finger down on something, but there's something about them that is so loving. It has this energy of love and compassion and just light. I'm going to give you an example. I was back from a meditation retreat. This was back in Feb. And I had this beautiful experiences. I've shared some of these experiences in the podcast. I'll continue to do so because it was just a beautiful experience to be with a group of people who were all they had one objective: to feel unlimited, to feel wholeness, to feel complete, right? So I was beaming from that event, and I had these experiences where I felt wholeness, where I felt worthy. I was in the seventh heaven when I came back from that retreat. And a few days later, I went to this event It was an in-person event in New York City, and there was a speaker who had come all the way from Florida. And he was amazing. He was magnetic. He was charismatic. Everything that he was saying was making sense. And I could see that a lot of people were being attracted to him. In the breaks, they were going to him and taking pictures and looking at his book and buying his book. And they wanted to put a picture of him on social media, which is absolutely okay. And we all do that. Somehow, I was just having my own party inside of me, and I was just sitting at the back and I was taking notes and I was listening. And he was very, very knowledgeable, and he was talking about how to build a speaking business. And I was really impressed with whatever he was saying, and it made a lot of sense. And I was making notes, and I was just in my own self, and I was just feeling so good about myself. I didn't even think that I had to go and take a photograph with him. I was just so in the present moment. I think that's the only way I can describe it. I didn't think about what can I do to make the situation or to make this event even more great. I was just feeling great. I was totally, completely immersed in my own happiness. I was in the present moment, that I was just listening to his words, taking in and making notes and sitting there and having a great time. The event ended, and some of us, we went across the street to a pub. And we ordered some drinks, we were networking. And out of the blue, this beautiful man, he came, and we were in a group, and he said, "I am just here to talk to you, because I saw you sitting at the back. And everyone came to me to take a photograph, but you didn't. But there was something about your energy. There is something about your energy that I couldn't stop myself from coming to you. I was so hoping that you would come to me and take a photograph with me, but you didn't. So now I had to make a pit stop." He was on his way back home. "I had to make a pit stop, and I had to come and say hello to you." And we chatted for a few seconds, and it was all done, and he left. And I was just like, wow, this is what they talk about. This is what people say, right? And probably I'm not even using the right words to describe this whole experience, but this was my first experience of, how your energy speaks louder than your words or even your actions. And I'm telling this experience to express what happens when you're in that energy. What happens where it's almost like your insides match with your outside. Because mostly it doesn't, right? Mostly we try to pretend, we put a mask on, we present a version of ourselves to the world. Our insides do not match with our outside. We are always operating from a very splintered version of ourselves. There's something else inside of us and there's something else outside of us. But in that moment, my inside was completely merged with the outside. And I was just so happy and content without honestly any reason to be happy and content. And that energy was sparkling. That energy was showing. Of course, I didn't know that, but it was very evident to people around me. In this stage, you have a crystal clear clarity of who you are. And that is why you're so sure of yourself. You're so confident. And again, this is this quiet confidence in yourself that I know who I am and I know who I am. In this stage, your purpose is also being revealed to you bit by bit. I'm not going to lie, it doesn't come in one go. It is revealed to you like a rosebud, petal by petal. It is opened. And if you've ever asked yourself, why am I here? What is my purpose? It will not be revealed to you until you go through water, you go through air, you go through fire, and you come back home to yourself. And that is when, like a puzzle piece, it starts to come together in front of you.
You don't have to do anything. Those are all aspects of the three-dimensional world. In this stage, you're not living in the three-dimensional world. You're actually in the quantum field. You can create your own reality over here. And of course, things bother you. You get angry, you get irritated, you get upset, but it isn't about that. You're a human. You're here to have a human experience. You do feel all the feelings, but suddenly now it isn't about those feelings. It isn't, and those feelings are not about you. Even if you're angry, you don't make them about you. And your reaction time, the refractory period of how long you keep that reaction up, shortens down. Maybe even to a few minutes, maybe 2 hours, maybe a day or two when it's a big event that's upset you. But you don't keep going it on and on and on for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. There have been situations in our life where something has happened to us 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and you say, I'm still upset about it. I'm still upset about the fact that my friend did not wish me happy anniversary or did not give me a gift on my wedding or whatever. Right? I'm still upset with my sister about that. You don't keep the reaction up. And when you do that, when you don't keep that reaction up for that very long period of time, you call all that energy back to you. And now all that energy is available for your creative projects, for happiness. As humans, we are creators. So when all that energy from your past and the worries about your future come back to you, now you can put that energy into your purpose. You can put that energy into living in the present moment. And you really have a vantage point about your past in this stage. You have perspective. You're no longer in the victim mode. You see it as this perfect unfoldment of what is to become of you today. And not to say that any of this makes anything right. Okay, I'm going to be very, very clear about that. Not to say that anything, any event, any past trauma that you've gone through, it makes it right. It still sucked. And maybe some of it didn't have to happen. I feel like that about many things that I have gone through. That, gosh, all right, I got the lesson from it, but god damn it, that sucked. That was so fucking hard. It doesn't take the pain from it. It doesn't take the struggle that you had or suffering that you had from it. But you almost have perspective from it. You see it as this unfoldment, the perfect unfoldment. And you often also see it that, oh, I see now why it was supposed to happen the way it happened. You're even grateful for it. Now, the real test of this stage, the challenge of this stage, is the discernment and the pull of your real current world. It's the temptation of the blue pill. Because as you're going through this stage, as you're feeling happy and you're feeling amazing, there are people around you who are not feeling that amazing. And it might be very triggering for them. And they might try to pull you. They might even try to say, what's wrong with you? You look different. They might even try to pull you back into their world, into the unknown, into the past, present reality where you just got out of. So you really need the discernment. And that is why the only way to have that discernment is to go through this process again and again. And don't worry, you will be back in the world. It happens to all of us. You will be back in that 3D, three-dimensional world where you're stressed out, where you're sad, and you suddenly find yourself in the muck again, and you will snap out of it. It will happen. But as long as you remember what is that you're going for, and honestly, all you need is that just one hit of that earth energy. One hit of that earth initiation, and I kid you not, once you've got that, once you've experienced that, and many of you have already experienced that, and that is why probably you are listening to this podcast, that is the pull that you're feeling towards this world. you will snap out of the real world and you will get on the journey home to self. And what really works for me is to ask myself. I always ask myself that at what point do I stop believing that I create my own reality? At what point do I stop believing that I am truly worthy, that I am truly unlimited? At what point do I stop believing in my own possibility? Because when I do, then I'm back in the old world. Then I'm listening to everything else that people are telling me to do. That I'm trying to fix myself into a box. That I'm trying to people please again. But when I do believe in my own worth, in my own divinity, in my own truth, that's when I can keep going. So that's a question that I ask myself often, especially in those times where things are hard. That things become really, really incredibly sucky. Another test that I would say in this world is the comparison. Because sometimes when you're in your muck, you can only see the things which are better off than you. That's the real world. I wouldn't even say real world, because what is real, right? That's the world that we live in, I would say. That's the world that we have created, where only the things that are material are counted. So let's say you are in your water and air and fire initiation, and one of the lessons that you maybe have to learn is related to material things, related to money maybe, or relationships. And when you see someone else that looks like they have a better relationship than you, that looks like they have more money than you, then it can be very disorienting for you at this stage. You can feel that, maybe it's something that I am doing wrong. Maybe there's something wrong in me. And then we go back to the 0 point. Because the moment we've asked ourselves a question, what is wrong with me? We're back in the 0 point. So the question that I would urge you to ask is not what is wrong with you, because there really isn't anything wrong with you. But the question is that at what point do I stop believing in myself? The gift of this stage is that inner worth. Is that you are divine yourself. Is that you are inherently worthy and inherently unlimited. You also have a lot of compassion at this stage, not only just for you, but also for others. You can really see people's journey as well, and you can really see the perfect unfoldment of their journey, and you can really see that we all do the best that we can with the resources that we have. You really start to see that. Now, what does it feel like when you are at this stage? Because this is a very feeling stage. I perhaps could list down all the things that would be possible for you when you're at this stage. But what does it really feel like? It feels like the smell of the first rain after a long, hot summer. It feels like a climax of lovemaking with your beloved. It feels like the dewdrops in the first bloom in spring. It feels like the taste of fresh honey or melted chocolate on your lips. It feels like the sand on the beach under your toes right when the sun is being swallowed by the sea. It feels like the sight of orange, red, and yellow leaves on a crisp fall morning. It feels like a song that reminds you of a happy memory. It feels like the smell from the scalp of a newborn baby. It feels like the sweat on your skin after a run or a passionate dance. feels like a mother's lap. And most importantly, it feels like home. And yes, this is the feeling that we're after. This is why we do it. The seekers, the travelers on this journey, the people who zip in and out, the people who will go in and face their past emotions and go through the fire and go through the forest. This is why we do it. This is why we face every emotion, no matter how painful, and use our water, our tears to alchemize the past. This is why we face the monsters lurking in the tomb and tell them with a laugh, come and get me. I'll be right here, waiting for you. This is why we enter the forest and find our way only using our intuition to rely on, and as Vasilisa did with her doll. This is why we willingly step into the fire and let it scorch us, let it rip apart the comfort of the known. Yes, we do it for the last stretch to come home. But those who have been on this journey will tell you that every step of this is as fulfilling as coming home. What do you do when you feel that wholeness, that inner divinity, a complete confidence in your worthiness? You do it all over again. Now, for a materialist, this might not be enough. That feeling might not be enough. They may ask, but what benefit will I get after this? How will it change my life? How will it expand my career? So I ask you, my dear listener, what would be possible for you if you aren't tethered to your past day in and day out? What would change in your life if you completely believed that you are worthy? If you do not doubt yourself? If you knew without a shadow of the doubt that you are enough, that you have everything inside of you, how much would you more trust in your possibility when you trust in yourself, your intuition, your abilities? And if you're looking for proof if this works, history has shown us that it does. There are many people, Ramana Maharishi, Brahmahansa Yogananda, Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza. There are so many names, so many people who have been on the journey home to self. Look at the guests that we've had on the show so far. Each one of them have been on the journey home to self. And they've been here, they're here to tell their story. But if you want real proof, if you want hard, real proof, then start with you. Experiment with it. Next time you feel the struggle of an emotion, practice the art of allowing, let go. Next time you find yourself doubting yourself, get still. Ask your intuition what the right answer is and then go follow it. Don't doubt it. Next time, ask yourself, why do I need to people please? What if I purge this habit, put it in the fire, and say no and do what I really want to do? Speak my truth. Start small, but start. Find a mentor who has walked this path and who can hold you. Mirror your gifts, your worthiness, your unlimitedness back to you and guide you through this infinity symbol. Find a community of women who are committed to coming home. The power of community and doing this work in group is unparalleled. It's been proven when you want to bring in personal change and you do it with a group of people, all of them having the same intention, you can bring lasting change in as less than 7 to 10 days. Versus if you do alone, it can take years. And when we do this work with others, we don't feel isolated. We don't feel alone. We feel together. This journey is always here for you. Whether you become a devotee to it and welcome each stage, each initiation as and when it comes, or you dip your toes and then go back to 0 point. It's never going to go anywhere. It's always there. That portal is always going to be there. No one can force you to take this journey. You will always have a choice. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. But if you do take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland and you find out how deep that rabbit hole goes. Thank you so much for listening to this 2-part special episode on the Journey Home to Self framework. I hope you enjoyed it and it gave you plenty of knowledge to understand what coming home can look like. Don't forget to download your PDF guide from the show notes. That'll also give further knowledge and tools to begin your journey and stay on it. If you like this episode or any other episode on the podcast, there are 3 ways you can support us. First, come home, start a journey. That's literally the whole objective of this podcast, to inspire you, to empower you, and to give you as much knowledge as needed so you remember who you really are. Second, leave a review. That helps us in reaching more people. And third, share it with someone. You never know how much someone may need to hear this or any other episode. Until next time, remember, you're whole, you're enough, you're worthy, you're unlimited, and you are perfect just the way you are. I'll see you next time.